Hello, everybody. I am. This is going to be a more Thailand-oriented video, um, primarily covering like the handful of things that I've been finding out about my travel to Thailand mid 2026. And my two sources are someone very close to me, and then another friend of mine teaches English. Is also tutoring me in Thai right now. Sawadee Krap. Learning. Uh, don't know a whole lot. I can count to 10. I can make out, I can read a little bit, but I know the alphabet. I'm working on it. Also, I'm going to show you a little bit of, let me go ahead and turn you real quick, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to explain, and I'm going to put in a little bit of video that I have for the correction on what happened with my water pump video, um, where I was mistaken what was wrong and had to go a little further. But first of all, we'll go over what I know now of going to Thailand here shortly. And it's been 15 months since my last vacation, and trust me, I need to go. I'll be leaving soon. Just a kind of summary of my videos have been keeping me a little busy. My project have been keeping me busy, making the time go by. Uh, Lately, I haven't done, I'm not covering any video on you guys watching me clean. I mean, that would be pretty boring, I guess. But I go by, section by section, room by room. I do my spring cleaning, and my spring cleaning actually happened in spring this time because I'm going in the summer months rather than going end of spring, summer, instead of winter months where I usually get out of Cleveland, get out of the cold and go to a warmer, nicer, warmer climate. I did see something that came up on Facebook that seven things to kind of like seven no nos for trying to get into Thailand. And the one thing for me is I take a pretty decent regimen of medications every day, and I found out that they do not they will not allow any kind of behavioral medications. You can look up the list. It will tell you, but they actually said that you need to contact your doctor and get alternatives. They will not let these in the country. If you have any kind of narcotics, apparently, you can bring those in, but then you need reputable documentation in order to bring those in. All of my medications are certain mild health issues that I have that are manageable, and nothing. A few of my medications are just supplements that help me manage my condition, and other ones are diabetes and high blood pressure, which are very generic medications. So what I do is when you receive a medication, you get the documentation with it of what it is, what its dosage, explanation of what it's being used for, what you're being treated for, and I take all those and bring those with me with about a two and a half, or I'm sorry, a 1.5, 2 month supply. I do stay for quite a bit when I travel there. Also, it is stipulated that all your medications have to be in their original bottles with the original count in them. If I have a bottle that says it's supposed to have 30 pills in it or a month's worth or whatever, I better not have more than those 30 pills. And all the times I've gone, they've never checked, but if they were to, that's what they're going to be looking for, is that medication. Don't mix your medications up in certain bottles, but make sure the dosages match, the dates match. That would be very wise to do that. there is a form that you need to fill out. It was one time you were doing it, a paper ticket on the plane that you showed at immigration. You turned it in with your passport, like where you are staying, where you are going when you arrive to Thailand. And now they have that online 3 day. You have to do it 72 hours before you arrive. I'm arriving at roughly 10 in the morning in Thailand. So roughly with the time changes from Cleveland to there, about 11 p.m., 2.5, 3 days before with the time change, I need to go ahead and go online, fill that out. They'll give you a QR code. You could store it on your phone. And when they scan that QR code, that'll match it up to the ticket you filled out. Apparently, you could still do it at the airport, apparently, and all that. But I like to be prepared when I show up. So I have a reminder set to do that just before I leave. So those kind of are the four that are slightly different from the last time I went. And if you, the reason I'm not going into any real detail is simply this, that part of your journey, part of going to Thailand or any other country, I believe is like do the research yourself and go ahead and know exactly what you're dealing with, know what their expectations are for you to arrive in their country. And just, a lot of places are, pretty diligent about, finding, like recording who you are coming into their country. And to look this stuff up yourself to make sure you know all the details, that you have everything prepared properly, is just it's something that is part of the experience, I believe, as far as whenever you're, traveling about the country. I want to see as many places as I possibly can before I call it, they put me in the oven, plan on being cremated. Don't know if you care or not. Okay, now about my keeping my Ranger alive part. This is, I've been watching some videos of other mechanics, and this one that I've been following, they seem to be pretty good. They're interesting. But what they do a lot is they're like, here, don't make the mistake here. We're trying to show you this. Don't make the mistakes that we made. And this was a minor mistake that I made with my coolant leak. What had happened is I heard my water pump, the truck was running, and I heard a lot of like noise squealing kind of out of the front of my engine. And then coincidentally, I started seeing coolant dripping off the engine. I couldn't see where it was coming from with it assembled, with everything there. The alternator was in the way. And I assumed that the water pump was going back. It was coming out of what I'll call the tattletale hole. There is a part where the housing is open, where I believe the bearings were going bad, seals were bad, and it was coming out of the water pump. But it turns out on my Ranger that the water pump bolts to the timing chain cover, and the water ports go through the timing chain covers into the block. And a long time ago, I pulled the timing chain, the oil pan gasket, and the timing chain cover off because I was having this problem that seemed like the engine was the problem, but it turned out it was something completely different. And I did have it all apart to kind of look at some things. And then I put the timing chain cover back on with a new gasket, sealed everything back up, and it lasted roughly 15 years. It turns out that the water port, which you'll be seeing now as I'm doing all this narration, that the water port through the timing chain cover where it meets up to the block was the actual issue. It was just a very small leak. It probably was also leaking into the oil, and that could have been a potential problem. If the water level in that engine goes too low, the heads have a weak spot and they crack. And I did not want that to happen, so I didn't drive the truck. But when I had to drive the truck, I just made sure it was full of coolant. But I decided, hey, it's still worth it. The truck runs so good, it's worth the effort to go ahead, take it all back apart again. But what I really, the only expenditure, I had already put the water pump in. I had already redid the coolant and the oil, but then I had to go ahead and I had to redo the coolant and oil again after I did the timing chain cover, because I may have mixed the two together, or I may have gotten some coolant in the oil, this and that. I didn't want to compromise anything. So an extra anywhere from 40 to 60, $75, and then the time put into to take it apart and do it. But the mistake I made, which I should have done in the first place, instead of guessing it was just a water pump, I went to an auto parts store. It's not cheap, but you give them roughly about $250, and they'll give you a coolant system pressure tester, which hooks into your radiator. And I pumped up the system with pressure, and that's where I saw the leak coming out of the timing chain cover and identified it there. I bought a good gasket for the timing chain cover. I had to replace the gasket for the water pump because I took that off just to make sure to rebolt that and check that all over again. And ever since I've done that, there has been no leak. Seems very, it's running really good. The cooling system staying full, but that is just good advice as far as don't really guess. It seemed logical that, hey, my water pump's making noise. When I took the front end slightly apart, took the fan off of it, got down to the water pump, I can feel the bearing. It wasn't very tight. I mean, I could feel a little play in the water pump bearing, and I immediately assumed, oh, it was just my water pump. But if I would have pressure tested it, then I would have found out that that was not the case, and just did it all at once. I would not have had to done the second oil change or the same second coolant flush. And this one threw me a real major curveball. I had put the engine all back together. I filled the radiator with coolant, and I was going to start purging all the air out of it and fill up the cooling system, which meant I needed to start the engine and warm it up. Turned the key, it ran for 2 seconds and died. I know, and no matter how many times I tried it, it kept doing it. And I was sitting there just racking my brain. I was wondering, did I dropped the crank sensor that I had taken off and wondered if I damaged it. It was an old crank sensor, never replaced it. So then again, once again, I made the mistake of just buying the part, putting it on, did not solve the problem. Not super expensive, but hey, but now it's got a new crank sensor on it. But then I'm like, did I mess up the keyway for the crank and not line the harmonic balancer up correctly? And took it back off. A friend that loaned me the puller had to come back out. He dropped it off for me and pulled it off, checked it out. It was fine. Same thing, put it back on, turn the key, it would like fire for 2 seconds and die. Looking at everything, I'm going through this. Well, what had happened was this. I had to take everything off to get it out of my way. The alternator's out of the way on this side. The air conditioning compressor and the bracket and all that is all off on the driver's side of it. And I had pushed it back and tied it off to keep it out of my way. So I didn't disconnect any hoses or anything. The air conditioning doesn't work in the truck, but I don't want to open the system in case I ever want to try to get it working again, but don't think so. But anyways, I had pushed the air conditioning compressor back. And what had happened is I'm not sure what the device is, but this here where I'm pointing at was not plugged in. I guess it was not clipped, but it was plugged in enough where the truck was running fine. Maybe a little off, but it was still running. What had happened is I just hit it enough with the air conditioning compressor to push it back enough where it lost connection. And it took me 3 hours to digging and everything, went and took that back off. I pulled it and realized it wasn't even clipped, and then pushed it back firmly where it did clip into place and lock, and the truck fired right up. And I was just like one, at this point, I was not a happy camper. I was very pleased that the truck started to run again, but I was definitely like rattled and burned out at that point because it's so this is an example of no matter how well you try to do things or how careful you are, you're working on old vehicles, things like that. Certain things are still going to uh, go ahead and really cause you a little bit of grief. But I guess the best example or the best lesson from this is if you're doing anything, kind of pay attention. The whole time this boss I had at one point, something I worked on something, it was running. I worked on something, it did not run, and and he's barking at me. It's like, you did something, yeah, you did this, you did something this, and I'm just hearing his voice in my head, and it was annoying the hell out of me. But I knew it. It was there's something I did that caused the truck not to run and not to start, and I mean I was right about that. So diagnosing uh, things of that nature without testing equipment, without, um, um, I mean, you could, I mean, maybe a meter would have helped going through, but I mean, okay, so, being a garage backyard mechanic can be stressful at times and all that. But if you like doing it like I do, I like working on things when I don't necessarily have to have it done at any certain time. I'm okay with picking away at my truck. Like I said, it's a beat down, rusted up vehicle, but it's dependable. It runs. Got me through a few winter storms, and until it finally blows something major. Oh, please, I need some wood. That excuse me. Okay. This may be interesting. This may be helpful, but just going over kind of like the last month and a half or so, I do a lot of planning. I go for a pretty decent length of time when I travel out of the country. And just this may be helpful in all this, but I go through a lot of stuff as far as, I mean, when I pack, I have to pack to where I'm going to be away for a while. And then, I mean, we're talking like all nowadays with all your chargers, all your devices, all your, I bring a laptop with me that's a heavy lifeline. I also, the cell phone is a healthy, very helpful lifeline, a necessary lifeline. But like, I go ahead and like being that I'm not going to be here, no sense for the refrigerator to be running the whole time. I go empty. And I basically, for these last few weeks that I'm going to be here, is I'm planning my diet, my menu, to where at the point where right before I leave, I run out of food and I can clean my refrigerator and shut it down, and just leave it open. When you turn off your refrigerator, do not close it back up. Please leave the doors open. And that's part of it. Like I said, I like the house being completely clean. So when I come back, I'll, a little bit sad that I actually had to, come back and then go back to work, that I'm not coming back to a cluttered or dirty house. Also, every scrap of trash that I can get my hands on. The day I'm leaving is actually trash day, and I have this very nice neighbor. I just helped them, also keep him busy, helped them do a repair on the soffit of his house. They were coming loose a little bit, but I mean, me and him help each other. He's going to keep an eye on my house, along with some security that I have set up. And but he'll bring my trash cans in for me that next morning after I'm gone. But just gathering up, don't leave any trash behind it. I shut the water off to my house. I shut gas down. I'm going to leave the gas onto my furnace, hoping the furnace doesn't come on. But I mean, if just, this is Cleveland and it's weird. I mean, it was May 2nd and it's actually, we had snowflakes coming down. So, I mean, any kind of weird freezing storm that comes in, I doubt if anything in my house would freeze, but hey, I'll leave the heat on just to keep it to a certain temperature. I'll shut the gas off to everything else, but I'll just relieve the pressure in the water system of my house, so there's no pressure on anything. The only other thing that I've done in the past is take and put antifreeze in all the traps, but this was in winter time. The only other reason I would go ahead and maybe put antifreeze in traps in summertime is that the water in all the traps, if it isn't a long enough time, a lot of people don't think of, is that the water starts to evaporate in the toilet and the traps, and eventually you start getting sewer gases in the house because you're not you've opened up. The water isn't holding that back anymore. I'm kind of hoping that that's not going to be the case. So I'm not going to put the antifreeze in there. Some of the antifreeze is actually, this is like an RV, you have a trailer home or a vacation trailer somewhere. Anybody will know that, where they put it in the toilets, they put it in the drains and all that to keep things from freezing. That I don't think is going to be necessary, I hope. I might also, my neighbor offered to water my lawn if it was necessary, where somebody also offered to come on, turn my water back on, and then come back and turn it off. The only reason that even in the summertime I'm going to have the water off is you never know if a braided line to a toilet decides to start leaking or blow, or a line to a faucet goes, and then you have water running for days in your house. Can do so much damage. Here's another story. This, like I said, not winter related. I'm sorry, not summer related, but winter related. Somebody had fuel oil heat, and in order to keep the valve from freezing in his fuel oil tank, had a light bulb at the valve, and the light bulb burned out while he was out on vacation, shut down his heat, and did an immense amount of damage in his house when he froze pipes. And he was redoing a lot of wood floors and all that. So if you're going to go for anywhere for an extended period of time, go ahead and think of everything, make a list of everything that you probably should do in order to protect your home while you are gone. While I've been posting these videos, I have noticed that there has been, quite a few, don't have many followers, some people close to me, people I know, and but I've noticed there's been more views than I would have thought. All you people out there that are watching my videos, give me some comments back that, improvements, critiques, be brutal. I'm not very sensitive. I'm trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to keep myself busy. If this does go somewhere, great. But if you just really quick, just maybe suggestions. Hey, what do you do about this? Or maybe show us this. This is all like my home stuff while I'm here waiting to, if things go well after this trip, I'm hopefully not going to spend a long time in between trips and go back pretty soon. What would you like to see in Thailand? Maybe that could be part of my plan when I go there. There's going to be some video for sure. This time, the time and other things have allowed me to go ahead, and I'm flying through Japan on the way back, and I'm going to spend a couple of days in Japan. One day, maybe just a day to rest, hang out in the hotel, and room service and relax. Maybe the pool, the exercise room, whatever, and all that. But I have a tour that I'm going on, and this tour that I set up, I don't want to say who it is at this point or anything, but for sure, when I talk to them, when I go on this tour, I'm going to get as much video as I can, see some of the sites in Tokyo, and then ask them if they're cool with it, that, I'm planning on making a YouTube video, and if they want me to say, hey, there's this available in, there's this tour from this person, this company or whatever, and let people know, check them out, look them up. All right. In conclusion, at this point, I'm going to try not to bash my own videos very much. Like I said, I'm going to work on making them better. I did learn one of the problems that I had some video that was very small, and what had happened is when I would open up the camera in portrait, an old camera I had, if I didn't press record and turned it, it would turn it and then press record, and it would still do it in landscape. But apparently this phone, if I open up the camera in portrait and then turn it to landscape, it still records in portrait. And that was something that it took me a minute to realize. So now I know that I need to open the camera, whichever position I want to be in there, and then start recording from there, and it'll be much better video. The microphone's working very well. I'm very happy with that. My setup here right now, my camera is set up in my selfie stick that I bought, which I'm hoping is going to be beneficial in creating recordings. And I got, like I said, just a little bit time left to go here, and I'm looking forward to start creating some videos on my journey. Hope you enjoyed. You were entertained a little bit. You were informed a little bit. Once again, suggestions, comments, critiques, and thank you very much. Enjoy.